Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, Bismillah. So I think time is a bit tight. This maybe requires a few more hours, but what I'll do is I'm going to go quickly through history. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, I want to outline how in history belief was affected. Because we didn't get here by chance. We got here through a process. What was it? What was that process? Okay. So the first part I've termed here the divine revelation era. So just summarize for me, what were the three components of knowledge? Revealed knowledge, sensory or scientific or empirical knowledge, and rational knowledge. So there's three. So there was a period where the divine revelation was strong. Okay, so where did this period start? So I'm going to start, and especially with regard to what's happening in Palestine, I want to start a bit and just comment a little bit about that in terms of the history. So we start at the beginning with Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim is considered to be the father of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Nabi Ibrahim has how many sons? Two. What's their names? Ishaq and Ismail. Ishaq has a son. What's his son's name? Yaqub. If son has a son, his son's name is? Oh, you have the full thing. Okay, I don't have the full thing. Okay. You have the whole thing. Okay. For the fine. Keep on rather. Let's keep on. For the online students, I'm testing them, inshallah. Online students, you can answer as well. You guys are watching the show here. It's not Netflix. This you must answer me when I ask the question. Okay, also online students. Bismillah. What was Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam's other name? Come on, online students. Bismillah.
Israel.
Good, mashallah. His name was Israel. Nabi Yaqub's other name was Israel. And he had how many sons?
12.
12. And they say in the scriptures he had one daughter also. He had 12 sons and he had one daughter. He used to have obviously this is not Islamic sources because this comes from the Bani Israel, but according to their records, he had 2 wives, 2 concubines, and the 2 wives and 2 concubines, like female slaves, are 4 women, and the 4 women produced the 12 sons and the 1 daughter, the 13 children. And of the 12 sons, who was the most famous son? Online students?
Yusuf.
Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam is the most famous son alayhi salam. And then this basically becomes the offspring of Israel. The offspring of Israel. So it's a prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, to a prophet Ishaq alayhi salam, to a prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, to a prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet. It is, can you see, divine revelation is present. Divine revelation is present at the core of Bani Israel. You all know the story of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam. His brothers put him in a well and they take him all the way to Egypt, to Misr. And then he lives there and eventually they have a famine. Where do Nabi Yaqub lives? He lives in a place we call Canaan. Canaan is the ancient name for Palestine. Canaan, the ancient name for Palestine. But they have a drought there, so eventually what happens when Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam becomes the governor in Egypt, the whole family moves from Palestine into Egypt. According to the records, there were about 70 of them who came and who lived in Egypt. 70 of who? Nabi Yaqub and his sons and his grandchildren, they came. 70 of them came and they moved to Egypt. Then, from the offspring comes who? The great-grandson of Nabi Yaqub, Nabi Musa alayhi salam. So Nabi Yusuf, I don't know if it's straight from that line, but he's from Nabi Yaqub's offspring. Nabi Musa is from Nabi Yaqub's offspring. And then he's born. I'm not sure exactly. Some say from Yaqub I'm not sure exactly which son he's from. So Nabi Musa is then when born into where? Into Egypt. So eventually what happens is that even though Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam was the governor and they had a good status, over time they became a people who were oppressed, the Bani Israel. They were oppressed by Fir'aun. And then Nabi Musa grows up in that oppression. At that stage, they're like a slave community. At that stage, they're killing the sons of the community, which is like a lot of irony if you think about what's happening today. Because now the oppressed have become the oppressor. The community whose sons were killed are killing the sons of another community. So there's a lot of history is like interesting in terms of what's happening now. Yeah, so Nabi Musa, Nabi Yaqub is Nabi Yusuf's great grandfather, so 4 generations. Yeah, so it's a short line. So from Nabi Yusuf to Nabi Musa's departure from Egypt is 215 years. 215 years. Somehow, and the number is questionable, according to the Bani Israel narrations, there were about 2 million people who left from Egypt. So there were 70 who came in, and there were about 2 million who left, which is questionable from a mathematical point of view. I don't know if 70 people mathematically can make 2 million in 215 years. Maybe you can do the math for some time, inshallah, and see. But it's very unlikely. But anyway, regardless of the fact, we know that they were oppressed, we know that they left. And we know that they came to a sea, and they were chased by an army. Again, history repeating itself. We have now those who were chased by an army now are the ones chasing another people and pushing them against the sea as well. So, like, so much of history is repeating itself. And then from there, so we have Nabi Musa, and from there they go into the Sinai desert. The Sinai desert. So if I can just maybe just open up Google Maps, so we can just see what's happening here. Because this region is a okay, so we go up all the way out of Durban and we go all the way north. We're going to see that in Egypt, there's a Sinai Peninsula here. Oh, you're not seeing on your side. Eh? Okay, is it coming? Oh, you're just sharing a PDF. Okay. So, okay, what I can do is that in Egypt, when you cross Egypt, you cross over the Suez Canal into the Sinai Peninsula, and the Sinai Peninsula is at the bottom of Palestine. So then they cross over into the Sinai Peninsula, and it's an important trade route for many reasons, but we won't get into that too much now. And then they cross over, and then they stay in Egypt for 40 years. In Sinai for 40 years. And then eventually, the one who served Nabi Musa, there's a whole story about Nabi Musa and the one who served him and Khidr and all of those things. His name is Nabi Yusha bin Nun. And eventually Yusha bin Nun, he is the one, he's a prophet, he is the one that eventually actually enters into Palestine after Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun had passed away in the Sinai desert, because their people didn't want to fight. They had the calf and they didn't want their manna and salwa. There's a lot of Quranic stories about all of that. But eventually Yusha bin Nun, he goes into Egypt, Palestine, and he conquers Palestine. And then you will have Prophet Samuel, which I think they call it Shamil, I think they said. They call him in Arabic. He then appoints Saul, Talut, as the king of the Bani Israel in Palestine, Talut. And then Talut then reigns. So Talut reigns from 1000 BC. So 1000 BC is 1000 years before Jesus ﷺ was born. We are 2023 years after Jesus. So you say 2023 plus 1000 is 3000 years ago. That's why the Jews always on CNN will say we've been oppressed, we've been living over 3000 years, we've been oppressed. They get the number from there, because that's the time from the reign of Saul, Talut alayhi salam, that he reigned. And then after him, Nabi Dawud alayhi salam takes over. Dawud. And if we have Dawud and Jalut is Goliath. He basically defeats them. There's lots of history behind all of this. And then his son is Sulaiman, and he builds the first temple. He builds the first temple called Temple of Solomon. These are prophets. Dawood is a prophet, Sulaiman prophet. The temple is essentially a masjid. It's where Allah is worshipped according to their law. Okay. So this society now is a society divinely inspired by divine revelation. Yes, they had more prophets than anybody else. Prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet after prophet they have after more than anybody else. Eventually, that region splits into two kingdoms, which they call the north they call Israel, and the bottom they called Judah. They split into two kingdoms. And what happens is when the kingdoms split, because now the prophets have passed away, those kingdoms then actually start idol worshipping. They even start bringing the Egyptian god Baal into the Temple of Solomon. They start bringing the Egyptian gods into the Temple of Solomon. They start even having some points of child sacrifice. They even have forced promiscuity, like houses where they force people to be promiscuous. Mean that their leaders actually shed divine revelation. And when they are shedding divine revelation, what are they absorbing in its place? That ancient Egyptian culture came into its place. And this is from their own books. It's not something which is contested. And then eventually what happens is the Babylonians came, and they come and they destroy the temple, and that's 586, where the Babylonians came. We're on the right hand side, in the middle column now. And they destroy the first temple and they exile the Jews to Babylon. They take tens of thousands of them and they take them to Babylon. One of the great ironies actually is that the Persians come. Now the Persians are like modern day Iranians. They come, they defeat the Babylonians, and they invite the Jews to come back to Israel, which is like the irony of ironies if you think of modern politics. That it was the Persians who conquered the Babylonians, who invited the Jews to come back from Babylon into Babylon's like Iraq, into Palestine, which is like the irony of ironies. And they allowed them to build the second temple. So under the Persian control, they build the second temple. Then a few years later, now 300 years before Christ, Alexander the Great, he's now from the Greek Empire. They call this period the Hellenistic period. He comes and he conquers Palestine. And then the Jews actually, in the temple, the second temple now, they actually again start idol worship. They have Zeus, the Greek god, in the Temple of Solomon. Okay. Why am I mentioning all this history? What does this has to do with belief? What I'm showing you is a nation which Allah speaks about the most in the Quran, who have gotten prophet after prophet, but despite prophet after prophet after prophet, they succumbed to the greater environment. When they came out of Egypt, they brought the Egyptian gods. When the Greeks overtook them, they wanted to be like the Greeks. And they brought in the Greek gods into the temple, into the official spaces. So this idea of people believing what the greater power believe is part of ancient history. This happened 3,000 years ago. It happened amongst the Bani Israel. And that's one of the reasons Allah speaks most about the Bani Israel. Why? To tell you Muslims, don't be like that. Don't be a people who have received the truth, but you give it up because of your surroundings and who's in charge. It's one of the reasons Allah speaks most about it. And then eventually, just before Jesus is born, about 70 years before Jesus is born, the Romans come. The Romans and Greeks are two different nations. The Romans come, and the Romans conquer Palestine, and they destroy the second temple. They destroy it 70 BC, 70 years before Christ, and the Temple of Solomon has never been rebuilt. Okay, so the Romans come. When the Romans come, Nabi Isa alayhi salam is born. So he's born into a community where Romans are in charge, but there's also rabbis, and he's coming with Christianity. And he's speaking to the Bani Israel, he's saying, I'm your messenger, follow me. What happens at the end of that story? Do the rabbis accept him? Do they see him as the true Messiah? No. The rabbis try to have him killed. The rabbis actually oppose Jesus and they have him killed. They want to have him killed. So who are they going to ask to kill him? Who's in charge? The Romans. Who's in charge at that time? The leader is called Pontius Pilate. He is the leader of that time. He actually washes his hands before he attempts to kill Nabi Isa. We believe it wasn't. He didn't actually kill him. It was made to appear like that. But he actually washes his hands. Why? Because he's washing his hands saying, I'm doing this because of rabbi pressure, not because I want to. So there we get the term, I wash my hands of this, from Pontius Pilate in his time. And then, so that is, so let's just pause there. That's a very brief 10 minutes on Jewish, like a couple of thousand years of Jewish history. But the point I wanted to make was that Allah speaks about this the most in the Quran. Nabi Ibrahim, Nabi Yaqub, Nabi Musa. The Quran is filled with Bani Israel. Filled with Bani Israel. Those that don't know the Quran know it's filled with Bani Israel. Why? There's a lesson there. And this is the lesson. Do not give up your truth because of what's happening around you, like Bani Israel did. In fact, immediately when they crossed over from oppression from Egypt, eventually they just came, it must have been even just a few days or weeks. Allah's best at time. They saw people with a calf and say, make a calf like this for us. I mean, Allah just saved you. You have two prophets, Nabi Musa and Nabi Harun, with you. And you see people with some gold shiny things and say, make it for us as well. There's like profound lessons in all of this, which can be discussed. Okay. Then, moving swiftly to Christianity, then Nabi Isa alayhi salam is born. And then Nabi Isa alayhi salam is born, and then what happens is in this space now, you have Roman pagans, because the Romans aren't Christian, they're pagans. You have Jewish community, rabbis in the community, and you have the growing Christian community. So you have these three phases. Until you come to 325, after 325 after Jesus, you have the Council of Nicaea. Council of Nicaea is a very important moment. Why? Because the Roman ruler, remember the Romans are pagan. But the Roman ruler Constantine, he says, I've become a Christian. So imagine the ruler becomes Christian. Imagine Ramaphosa and the whole cabinet becomes Muslim. I mean, what happens then? Now the ruler says, I've become Christian. Which means now the whole state now must leave paganism and they've become Christian. Then he calls a council, a meeting of the ulama, of the Christians, and saying, work out what is happening with this God thing. So now they're working out. Now you must understand, you have a prophet who called to monotheism, Jesus called to one God, who was put in a context of polytheism, paganism, multiple gods. If you Google them, Greek gods, Roman gods, that's all the series that people watch today. Zeus and Hercules, and these are all Roman and Greek gods that people are watching actually. And Thor, it's all part of white ancient culture that they're trying to brainwash us with. You don't see other gods from South America or gods from India. You just see white gods. But that's also, that's a different discussion altogether. Part of the brainwashing of society. But you have a monotheistic religion dropped into a polytheistic space. They call a meeting, and in the meeting it is affirmed that the Father and the Son are one. Because in the meeting they're debating, who is this Jesus? You have Arius who stands up and says, no, this Jesus cannot be the Father. Because this Jesus he's born, he has a beginning. He uses logical arguments, he has a beginning. He can't be the Father because he has a beginning. How can he be like the Father? But he's overruled and they adopt the Trinity. So therefore you find within Christianity there's a lot of elements of paganism. It's not like conspiracy, it's like historical fact. You can just check out where the roots of many of these things are, because it's a pagan society which is now adopting Christianity with a pagan leader who became Christian, and the religion is kind of altered. Because now Trinity becomes official doctrine, and Unitarian Christianity, which believes in one God, becomes heresy. Becomes unacceptable. So if you were a Christian believing in one God, you're almost like a bad Christian, we're going to kill you. But you're a Christian believing in Trinity, you're the right kind of Christian. When this happened? 325, Council of Nicaea. Again, what is the point I want to make from history? A prophet with a revelation, believing in one God, put into a context, polytheism, what happens to the religion? It changes. It's a lesson to the Muslims. It's a this is a big lesson to the Muslims. This is what we are. So are you following why I'm going through this? I'm going through this because we are learning from the previous nations. Both their revelation became corrupted. And I mean, not even like small corruptions, big. I'm talking about like fiqh, wudu, salah. I'm talking about idols in the temple. You know, idols, like imagine an idol in the masjid. Na'udhu billah, you know what I mean? Like that's the level of it. Imagine calling the Prophet a god. That was the level of the corruption. It was utter corruption of the religion. Until, okay, it's just until who comes? The light. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because each prophet is coming to fix things. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he comes. He comes from the same line from where? Nabi Ibrahim, but from the other line, Nabi Ismail alayhi salam. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake on the slide there. Online students, I made a mistake. There's Nabi Ismail, sorry. That's the late night typos. Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, not Nabi Ishaq. Ishaq is the other line. Okay. Now the Prophet, remember, Council of Nicaea is 325. Now we're on 570, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is born. 610, 40 years old, revelation begins. 622, Hijrah to Makkah. 630, conquest of Makkah. The whole Arabian Peninsula becomes Muslim. And then 632, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passes away. If we look at this map, you can find that the dark green is where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam conquered. Not the black arrows, the green arrows is where he conquered. So you can see he conquered in Makkah, in Medina, in Yemen, in Oman. And obviously the middle of the Arabian Peninsula is not like cities, they're just like desert, so they also became Muslim. But Islam stayed in the Arabian Peninsula in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he brings the truth. Then, what happens next is that the Khulafa came. I won't go through too much of it, but the Khulafa, Abu Bakr comes first, and he doesn't conquer much because he stabilizes the Muslim community. He fights those who don't want to pay zakah, and he stabilizes the Muslim community. The great conqueror is going to be Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar conquered many countries, and Islam just spread from Iraq, Syria, Palestine, Egypt. When Umar conquered Palestine, and there's so much about Palestine to be said, because even Allah tells you in the Quran, "Ghulibatir Rum," that remember the Romans were in charge. Allah says in the Quran, Surah Rum, "Ghulibatir Rum," that the Romans have been defeated by who? By the Persians. In the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Persians conquered Palestine. When the Persians conquered Palestine, they killed 90,000 people. 90,000 people. And the Quran tells you in less than 10 years, the Romans will conquer them again. And the Romans conquered them again. But when the Persians conquered Palestine, the Jews actually helped the Persians to overthrow the Romans, because the Romans were oppressive towards the Jews. Lots of history. When Umar radiallahu anhu conquers Palestine, what happens? He writes what he called the Treaty of Umar. And he says that he doesn't even make salah in the church. He says, I'm not going to make salah in this church here, because in case my followers make this into a masjid. He says that no church will be harmed. People can wear their cross. No cross will be harmed. No church will be damaged. No blood was shed. When the Muslims conquered Palestine, no blood was shed. They laid siege to it. No blood was shed. This was the conquest of the Muslims. The Muslims are really, and they allowed the Jews to come back. Initially, Christians didn't want the Jews there because they betrayed them with the Persians, but Umar allowed them to come and to settle. Had it not been for the Muslims, there would be no Jews in Palestine. The Muslims are the one that actually allowed them to live there in peace. Now, anyway, lots of what's the contrasts are important. Then we have Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. He preserves the Quran, and Ali ibn Abi Talib, and then he is the fourth Khalifa. And then we have the three empires of Islam. We have first of all, the Umayyad dynasty, beginning with Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. So remember, the four Khalifas last about 40 years. Then we have the Umayyad dynasty. Their capital is in Damascus. And Islam expands to Spain, expands to Asia, massive empire in Damascus. And then from there we have the Abbasid Caliphate, and their Islam is in Baghdad. That's the golden era when you have all the Muslim scientists and the Muslim mathematicians and the astronomers. This is in the Abbasid Caliphate, the golden age of Islam. They're from 750 to 1258. They're in Baghdad until who comes to destroy them? The Mongols. The Mongols came, came from the Far East, and they say they turned the blood, I think it was the Tigris River in Baghdad, they turned it, sometimes they say it turned black from all the books they threw in there and all the ink, and then turned red from all the blood. They were ruthless killers. They actually came to the leader of Baghdad, they rolled him in a carpet and they rode a horse over him so he can die in the carpet because his blood mustn't touch the ground. Ruthless killers. The Mongols are one of the worst calamities that hit the Ummah. But anyway, long discussion about it. And what's this? Yes, they become Muslim afterwards. Yes, but that's like the nice end of the story. But while it was happening, it was a difficult story. And then eventually, all of the Muslim empire moves towards the west. They start gathering in Egypt. You have the Fatimid dynasty, but eventually you have the Ottoman Empire in the. Remember, we're moving away from the Mongol space. From the west, we have the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire runs from 1299 until 1923, which is what? 100 years ago. 100 years ago. Lots of important history. But I don't get into those history now. I want to come back to Aqidah. What happened? Muslim-Christian conflict. And here it's some important things. In this time, the Christians come and they have the first crusade and they conquer Jerusalem. Christians are now going to be the Roman Catholic Church, the Byzantine Church. They come and they conquer Jerusalem in 1099, and they conquer not like the Muslims conquer. They slaughter men, women, children in the streets until the blood, they say, in Jerusalem was ankle deep. 40 to 70,000 people killed of Jews and Muslims. And then who retaliates? Our famous Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. He retaliates, and they say about him, no bloodshed. He let people live there, he let people live with their wealth. He was the most merciful conqueror. He calls the Jews to come live there. Who? The Muslims. The Muslims are always the ones that allowed people to live. If it hadn't been for the Muslims, the Jews would not be there. All these years. This is the history of the space. And then eventually what happens is that also they have all these crusades. But in the crusades, what's happening now? Remember, we have the golden age in Baghdad. And we have the Crusaders coming. They actually live like very primitive lives. They're not very advanced. They start meeting the Muslims. They start cross-pollinating, and they start learning the science of the Muslims and the technology of the Muslims. And then, okay, we leave that now. And then something happens amongst us Europeans. They take this Muslim expertise in science and they develop it and they grow it to such an extent that they have something called the Renaissance. And the Renaissance means the rebirth. And the rebirth actually means what? We are rebirthing ourselves as humans and we are discarding revelation. We are rebirthing ourselves as humans and we are discarding the control of the church. So the Renaissance is the shedding of the church. Remember, before it's all theocratic states. When I mean theocracy, I mean like crusades is the church in charge. Muslim empires, the Muslims in charge. Now, for the first time, you have secular states growing. Lots of history about it, but the idea is that there's a focus on humanism. Humanism means that what does the human want to do? The human is the center. Not God is the center, Allah is the center. The human is now the center. And this is the beginning of European thinking. This is the thinking that we are absorbing in our times now. It says here that humanism focused on the individual and the potential, rather than on religion or other institutions. We're not worried about the religion and control. We're worried about the individual. Okay. Then we have the scientific revolutions in the 16th and 17th century. Now we're moving away completely to, remember the second thing was? Empirical evidence. Can you see what happened now? They shed the first one. Divine revelations out of the picture now in Europe. Now we focus about European science. Now you're going to hear about Galileo, you're going to hear about Isaac Newton, you're going to hear about all of those people who discovered stuff and invented stuff. All the stuff they discovered and invented was actually discovered by the Muslims before. But they don't mention their names. You with me? All the stuff about the microscopes and about gravity and about the heliocentric model was all discovered by the Muslims centuries before, but they obviously have to credit the white man because the white man must be now put on the pedestal because it's Eurocentric. Even our textbooks are still like that. Okay, so lots of discussion I won't go through just because of time. But the point I want to make now is that science has become now the official standard of truth. Science. Okay. 17th and 18th century, we're speaking about the Enlightenment. Enlightenment means what? Enlightenment means clarity, it means rebirth, means goodness. What are we coming out of? Religion means darkness. Dark ages, religious ages. Enlightenment, science. Can you see how the terms are working? When we're in a religious state, it's called dark ages. When we're in the Renaissance and the science, now we call it the Enlightenment. Because why? We are shedding, the Europe is shedding the burden of religion becomes something private. Don't come with religion. It becomes something private. And then you have all of these Enlightenment thinkers, John Locke, Voltaire, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. They start the formation now of a state without religion. They start, embedding it into law, into culture, without religion. Okay. Just with regard to this, I'm going to come to it in detail now, but remember, this is the same time when what is happening. When these European countries are conquering the whole world, whole of Africa, whole of South America, whole of North America, whole of Asia, they become the colonies. So they're also exporting this thinking as well. We'll come to more of it again. I won't get too much into you can just go to the next slide. I won't get too much about the philosophy of science. Remember, I said Muslims, if the science is right, Muslims affirm it. We affirm it, like if the pen is red, it's red. You with me? But the issue we have is not with the science, the issue is with the philosophy of science. What's the philosophy of science? The worldview. So I won't go through all of these things. We believe in all the normal things, induction, falsification, empiricism, realism, we agree with. The problem is number 5. That's positivism. Positivism. This is actually was the great Muslim problem with science. Positivism is that the idea that scientific knowledge is the only valid form of knowledge. You with me? Unless science says so, it's not true. And all other claims are either meaningless or non-empirical. So what does scientific positivism say about revelation? It says that's ghost stories. That's fables. Give me the evidence. What does scientific positivism say about God? I can't measure him, I can't see him. What are you talking about? So Muslim doesn't have a problem with science, we have a problem with scientific positivism. That's the issue that we have. We don't have a problem if you discover something, but we have a problem when you're saying that only if I can test it, it's real. No. I believe in things you can't test. I believe in a God. I believe in angels. I believe in revelation. I believe in heaven. I believe in hell. I believe in Qiyamah. You can't test it. There's no microscope. There's no telescope. You can't see those things because that is in the domain of divine revelation. So this is the problem. It's not science. It's scientific philosophy, especially positivism. There's an important critical point about how we navigate science. Sorry, I don't have the paces too fast. But, let's take a breather for a moment quickly there. Are we all good so far? So what's the macro story? The macro story is the Muslims are actually the masters of science, but they have science with revelation. On their tools of surgery, they have Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You with me? I'm a scientist, I can cut open a body, I can do all those things, but Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You with me? They have the belief in the science always in step. There's no conflict. When the Europeans come and they learn from the Muslims and they take the science and they expand it, they remove religion from it. To such an extent that they say religion has zero authority in truth and only science has authority. And that's why we must be careful as Muslims when we navigate these fields. We don't have a problem with science. We have a problem when you start saying it's not true if I can't see it. Then you're actually no longer a Muslim because you can't see Allah, you can't see Qiyamah, you can't see what you're going to say. So scientific positivism is actually one of the big issues.
So maybe one of the reasons that Muslim ulama also participated those and authoritarian, then that's one of the reasons why people break away.
It ties to your first question about evolution. Because just for the online students, our sister is saying is also because of the oppressive nature of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church was super oppressive, and if you said the earth was round, they would probably hang you. And this is the problem I'm saying also with Muslims, is that Muslims must not speak beyond what the Quran says or beyond what the Sunnah says. Meaning what? Don't make up like fake Islam science and start talking about it. It's very problematic because you're going to create conflicts that shouldn't be there in the first place. And that's exactly what the church did. The church started getting involved in science, and they started penalizing people for proving them wrong. And of course, you're going to share this authority like that because it makes no sense. Whereas for a Muslim, if you are a true believer and you stick to your text, you will never be in conflict with empirical evidence. Never. Because the source is right.
You mentioned basket, then they will look at everything and do similar things.
The answers are all available. The job of the scholars is to convey it. The answers are all available. That's what I'm saying. There's no problem to navigate the world. There's no problem with any discussion. There's nothing off the table. Everything can be discussed, and everything has an answer in Islam. Even if the answer is simply that is not the domain of revelation, that's the domain of empiricism. Alien life is not the domain of revelation, it's the domain of discovery. And we have to just leave it at where discovery is. It's in a state where we're not sure, and that's fine. We don't have to definitively say something about it because the Quran must tibyani kulli shay. No, that's a misunderstanding of what that verse means. So this is one of the important points. And this is exactly what the Muslims did believe before, and that's why we were so scientifically successful. Not that science is the barometer of success. Iman is the barometer of success. Science is a byproduct. Don't also get confused and say that scientifically that's the superior society. Iman and akhlaq, and that's the superior society. But we didn't have an issue before. So this is one of the big issues. That's why I'm mentioning it. That's why we're having this class. Now, no, we didn't. Maybe segments of ulama did, but in general, no, we didn't. In general, if you're true to Islamic scholarship, you have no issue with science, and you can live in peace. You know what I mean? There's no, in terms of true, like, and therefore you mustn't overstep. Like even scholars must stay in their lane. There's stuff that medical people are the professionals of. If I'm an alim, I'm a Quran scholar, I can't comment on medical stuff because that's the domain of medical professionals. I can maybe interact with them in terms of how we get to the laws and all of those things. That's a different discussion. But people must stay in the lane. And again, Muslim scholars, we can have very limited comments on science. We're not scientists. People must stay in their lane, and the people must be able to navigate the different spaces responsibly from revelation. Yeah. Anyway, but by and large, this has always been the position of Muslims. Like there's no issue navigating anything. Now, then this force from Europe, it grows in power and starts becoming an animal which expands. Why? What happens? You have the 4 revolutions, the 4 industrial revolutions. The first discovery is they discover steam. Steam changed the world. Why? Because before they discovered steam, the entire world, like 99% of the world, either did one of 2 things. They either farmed, so they could eat and live, and they were into crafts, making stuff. And they were mostly rural. Maybe 10% urban. 90% of people lived on farms and they made stuff. Until they discovered steam and coal. Why? Because when you discovered steam, you could make things turn and make things move. And now you can make things turn. That thing turning can do the work of 100 people. The beginning of factories. You can Google the spinning jenny if you want to see how that works. Factories now can do, and now what happens when you have factories, you have to have labor for it. So you start taking out the labor from the rural areas and you put the labor into urban areas where they can work. And within 100 years, like for example in the United Kingdom, it went from 80% rural, 20% urban. It went from 20% rural, 80% urban. Because of the concentration of resources. That's the revolution. Then we have, that's the 1800s, 1850 onwards. And in the 1900s, 20th century, we have chemicals, gas, synthetic materials. We have the beginning of electricity as well. And now we have true mass production. through mass production. So all of that life about living on a farm and you were a carpenter, you're taking 5 weeks to build a table, you're taking 10 weeks to make a dress. That life is over now because you have factories who are going to undercut you and they're going to, there's no space for you anymore. Then in the 3rd century, which is when some of you were born, and maybe some of you not so born then, third industrial revolution in the 2000s. I don't know, some of you were born in the, I'm confused here. The 19th century is the 1800s. Then the 20th century is the 1900s. So 1900s, what's happening now? The digital revolution. You can suddenly send a message over a computer. You can talk over, the internet comes, it changes the economy. And the next revolution is going to be what? It's going to be AI, robotics. That the technology now is going to, at the lower level, at the manual jobs, we'll have robots. At the intellectual level, we have artificial intelligence. And can you see what's happening in every level? The machines can be becoming better and better and better until the machine is so good that the machine surpasses a human. What do humans do when machines do human work better than humans? Just think about it. What do humans do when machines do human work better than humans? What do you do one day when the machine is a better doctor than the doctor? Because the machine has access to every study in an instant. It has access to millions of data points. It has access to what the doctor can never get access to. What do you do? This is the question facing humanity. And it's a question that happened in series from the 1700s happens. Why? The machine is growing and growing and growing until it comes to a point where human beings are no longer, you don't have to have a driver to drive. The machine will drive the car. Who will drive better, machine or a driver? A machine. The machine doesn't get drunk, the machine doesn't get tired, the machine doesn't get confused, the machine is going to be a better driver. The machine is going to be better than the human at the human job. This is what's happening. Long discussion. I just want to give you what's happening in terms of this is happening now. And then what happens is these countries, because it's focused in Europe, these countries now in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, they take over the whole known world. Meaning what? Every country in green on this map. Can you go forward? Every country in green in this map was controlled by European countries. The whole of Canada, the whole of North America. Canada was taken by a European country. North America, the whole South America, virtually the whole Africa, Australia, Indonesia, India, all controlled by European countries. Because why? They had the technology, they had the power, but they had there's no religion really. They had some Christianity, but easygoing Christianity. I mean, they had like a weird Christianity because they like forced Christianity. They forced Christianity and the culture amongst people. Why do people in South America speak Spanish? Do you think they just say, "Oh, that's a lovely language. Let's just leave our language. Let's all speak Spanish." And do you think in Mozambique they say, "Oh, Portuguese? What? We're missing all our life. Let's change all our names and all speak Portuguese." Why are we speaking English now? Because we were taught by our colonizers. No. And then they came with their armies and they came with their business people, like the Dutch East India Company. A company came and colonized us. And obviously they came with our missionaries. Because as they're taking all the resources, they give you the Bible and say, turn the other cheek. So they will leave you the Bible and take all your resources. They're still doing it. They're doing it in the Middle East now. Still doing it. They'll come and they'll take all the resources. That's all half these wars are fought for resources. Been happening for hundreds of years because of the Europeans. The Palestine issue is solely because of Britain and the Balfour Declaration in 1917. Solely because of Britain. This is the history. Now, as Muslims, and I want to come to where we are with the young people now. For me, it's problematic as a Muslim for my children and our children to think of the European culture and civilization as superior. I understand why. Because in the last few hundred years, they dominated technology, they dominated conquest. Their culture is broadcast to us. That's why we have everything is white or in the fashion of a white person. It's broadcast to us completely. And we then start looking up to that. But what are we looking up to? We're looking up to a people who have shared religion completely. and has just used the world as some sort of resource base for greed. And part of navigating the modern times, turbulent times, is to undo the colonial mentality. To stop thinking the white man is better and white civilization is better. What is better is Islamic civilization. That's better. That is the supreme. Better in which way? Better in faith. Better even in the way we conquered. We conquered without blood. We conquered with peace. We allowed people to live. Don't harm their cross. That's how we conquered. Better in science. We had science without reducing our religion. Better in ethics. Better in morality. Better in justice. Our history is, you know, I mean, there's so much, like, we are, and we were the best of nations. So if that young heart is aspiring to something which is outside of that, what are you aspiring to? At my school, I tell about my kids, what are you following all these colonial teams in the Premier League and all these leagues? You think they care about you? This is just part of the colonial project that you look up to those people. They don't care about you. Why are you following all of these little stars there? You think they care about you? They don't care about you. The colonial project, they might have removed themselves in terms of physically off the ground, but they haven't removed their influence. And as a Muslim, we have to shed all of this. Why? Because they won't come to the dust of the feet of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Umar radiallahu anhu, and what our believers, our Muslims did. And I think this is an important project. Like you were asking about what you do. You reinstill not Islam as some sort of form of rituals in the form of I must do this and tick, 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 and I must say this. No, that pride in Islam must run through your blood. That you must know that this is superior. And obviously now we're in a sad state of affairs, but we weren't always in a sad state. You asked me, we were the kings of this world for the sake of Allah. So this is a big part of what is happening. And this education is important. That's why at our school, we're constantly talking about the companions. We're speaking about the Muslim empires because we want to tell them this is superior. That's why I advise people, you want to watch Ertugrul, watch it with your family. Obviously, ikhtilaf and all this. I'm in Durban now, so I must be careful, Cape Town. But there's ikhtilaf and all of this stuff. But if you're watching me now, you're watching something anyway. So I see you on the Cape Townian way. But like I would say, like if you're gonna watch something good. Then watch something where you can see the pride of Islam rising. You can see the empire of Islam, the Ottoman Empire being reinstated. Because it's better than watching some random series about some some multicultural gay people in the US. You know what I mean? It's better. You're at least instilling pride. This is part of the education of your family. It's important. You have to instill that core iman, the core belief. Okay. Whew. We have one more. Okay, if I can just maybe take a few more minutes, inshallah. 1960, the world changed again. I'm sorry for the timing also this, but 1960, the world changed again. In 1960, we have again, it's always the Frenchmen. The Frenchmen are the source of the Renaissance, and they're the source of the revolution. There's something wrong with the French. I don't know what's wrong with them. But you have these French philosophers, Michael Foucault and Derrida and Lyotard. They're famous architects, and they come to certain conclusions which are just going to change the world from 1960. The conclusions are that objective truth does not exist or it is inaccessible. Nothing is true. Not even science. Not even science is objective truth. Therefore, even though I can see someone's biological chromosomes, I can see their organs, I can't say they're female because that's not objective truth. You with me? Every truth is relative to what you think, to your idea. Everything is a social construction. A social construction means that it's just because society says it like that. Whether you're speaking about the institution of marriage, you're speaking about someone's gender, You're speaking about any idea is a social construct. Nothing is linked to revelation or nature. Everything is just made up because people said so. They make all morals and all ethics. Nothing is fixed. Why? Because they don't subscribe to revelation as being like an arbitrator, because revelation for us is arbitrator of right and wrong. They don't have revelation anymore. They don't subscribe to cultural traditions. Maybe, like, for example, maybe you're not a religious society, but in our society, you don't harm someone because that's how the culture is. They also, that's just a construct. Everything now is just relativized. Okay, let's leave low out and high out for now. And then they come to two principles. And I'll just go through this quickly. The first principle is that no objective truth either exists or is obtainable. So if the truth doesn't exist, why do we speak about truths? Why? Because they say in society there are these people who make themselves authorities who are saying this is true and this is false. Amongst these authorities are scientists. You with me? Because science tells you this is this. They say that there is a problem. Who are you to say to someone else that this is true? Amongst those authorities are religious figures. Who are you to say this is right and this is wrong? You with me? Who are you to say I can't take any drugs or figure? Who are you to come with revelation? Meaning what? As part of the political principle, they say that society is formed of all these. There's no truth, but there's this hierarchies in society. And these hierarchies make up truths. And these hierarchies must be opposed. Therefore, as part of the modern world, everything will be opposed, including scientific realities. And therefore, you have a crazy situation now where a young child of 12, 13 years old will go to a doctor and say, please chemically castrate me and physically castrate me. And the doctor will say, yes, I will do that because it's best for you. You're a doctor, you're a person of empirical studies. You're supposed to be a person of studies. How can you say to chemically and physically castrate the person is best for them? Why? Because you've given up your position as an authority. Because now the child can tell the adult what is best. Previously, we said, no, you're a child, you tell what do you know? Keep your body parts. But now the child can tell. Why? Because the hierarchy is disturbed. And every hierarchy will be disturbed, including child and parent. If, for example, in Canada, if your child is a boy and identifies as a girl and you call your child a boy, you will be charged with domestic violence. Because every hierarchy will be destroyed. Religious hierarchy, teacher, parent, scientific, every hierarchy is being destroyed. Because every truth is what I say and I feel. And what it does, it produces the rational impossibilities. I'm a cat and a human. Like it produces, and we have to say, okay, yes, you're a cat and a human. I'm a male and a female. It produces, can you see the third pillar now, rationality is gone. So what's gone now? Revelation is gone, scientific authority is gone, and rationality is gone. So what's left? Insanity. Collective insanity that we must accept as normal. So I just want to end, and I want to end with, okay, maybe I can just do this one thing quickly. Sorry, man, I'm just going to push a few more minutes, inshallah wa ta'ala. In terms of the themes of postmodernism, number one is that all the boundaries are gone. In fact, some of the postmodernists say that categorization is a form of violence. For me to say there's a male and a female, I'm being violent. Who am I to start grouping other people? Which is like, it's how like language and life works. You understand? This is a human, this is an animal. You know what I mean? Like it's how life works. But categorization is a form of violence because all boundaries must be blurred. Truth and belief, science and art, natural and artificial, animal, human being, all must be blurred. Man and machine, all must be blurred. And then number two is that they do this by constantly attacking language. They constantly police language Because they say language, and it's a very complicated, not complicated, it's a very crazy thing. But in normal human rational beings, when we say a word, we mean a thing or concept. Like I say pen, I mean this thing. For them, no words mean things. Words mean other words. Therefore, they can't answer the question, what is a woman? Because you ask me what's a woman, okay, they have this chromosomes, they have this body part. Simple. It means a thing. For them, is a woman is someone who identifies as a woman. What you told me nothing. You with me? Because words itself don't mean things. Words means words. And you're constructing the meaning all the time. And this is what we are for. Where you call marriage, what does marriage mean? Whatever, I can get married to this bottle if I want to. Do you with me? Because I can make up, because marriage doesn't mean a thing. Like in Islam, okay, marriage, man, woman, offer acceptance, 2 witnesses, mahar. Okay, we have a marriage, we have a thing there. I can make up, I'm marrying this coffee. You with me? I can, like, you can do anything, because words don't mean things. Words just mean stuff that you make up. And if someone tells you it means no, you're being crazy, it means a thing. Who are you as authority to tell me what I mean? You with me? Because all authority must be broken. And everything is relative. And the final thing is that there's no room for the individual. Meaning what? You can't have an individual voice. Nor is there room for universal. What is universal? Universal means you can't have one universal law. Why? Because if I have a universal law, it becomes oppressive. Why are we all having a law? And if I have individual voice, I'm not respecting everybody else's position. So what they do is they start grouping people into identity groups. Whether according to the sex, according to the gender, according to sexual orientation, according to race, according to culture, they start grouping people in these identity groups, and those become the new jihad. So this is what's happening in our time. And that's why I'm saying in our time, we face a unique situation. Because all the 3 pillars of truth have been upended. And our children are being schooled in this. If your child is in a private school, ask them about gender. Ask them about sexual orientation. Because we get sexual orientation from the Quran. The Quran tells you what you can and can't do. If you take that away, what's left? What do you want to do? Everything is being upended. And if you tell your child, you can't do that way, they'll say that's an oppressive force. Who is your family to tell you that you can't do that? That's not going to explicitly, but it's the implicit narrative all the time. You make your choice. And this is coming, it's like it's being born now. Have you seen it here? But in Cape Town it's big. And it's spreading faster and faster and faster as the mainstream. All of these things here. And then your child gets all of this and looks at Islam, and Islam is full of rules and full of like absolute statements, true, false, do, don't. And this year, like, well, that's just according to your perspective and according, like, if you identify like that, if you want to be it like that, and that's actually a form of oppression because actually it's a patriarchal narrative, and like all of these discussions are happening with our youth. And if you're not aware of it, we're going to lose them because it's being schooled so, and we're even losing it amongst Muslims. Like for you as a Muslim to tell some of your Muslim people, homosexuality in Islam is not allowed. Some of your own Muslim cultures say, who are you to judge? I am not, I am transmitting what the divine revelation says. You with me? I'm not condemning anybody to hell, even hell, that's Allah's business. I'm just saying what is allowed in Islam. So even your Muslim colleagues will start saying, who are you to judge? I'm not here to judge. I'm here to convey what the divine law says. That's my job. Allah will take people to account. I'm not there to that. You understand? But even it's going into, and especially amongst the Muslim professional class, the Muslim, like called intellectual class, academic class, because they are schooled in the school of the oppressor, and especially in humanities, sociology, philosophy, all of those places. Yeah, define harm. Spiritual harm, psychological harm, physical harm, like define harm.
sense that if a man are married, who is it not?
Yeah.
He's sitting in our home and loving each other. So, why are you coming in there?
Yeah, but I'm saying if you take the argument to its logical conclusion, that man said okay, but what if I take it to the logical? What if I take it to the next level? What it becomes a man in a machine, a man in an animal, a man in a miner, a man in a family member. You with me? You can keep the same rhetoric all the time, but what happens is that we have divinely revealed morality, and if we contradicted it, it causes us spiritual harm and psychological harm, because we have a different understanding of harm. For them, they're just looking at physical, because they're only beings of material. So if no one's physically hitting me, like for example, what is harm for you to someone talk naked in the streets? You with me? Like I'm saying, that's the whole logic. What is the harm? Because if men can be topless on the beach, why can't women be topless on the beach? Who's harming? Why is one organ taboo if my arms are fine? Who's harming? Do you understand? It's everything is blurred. And if you don't have a pig in the ground, what are you going to say? Oh, yes, I'm anybody. Okay, so but where are you going to go with that? And where we are mentioned now is where we're going. And therefore, the Prophet says at the end of time, people will fornicate in the streets like animals. And the person of taqwa will say, can't you just do it around the corner? Hadith at the end of time. Because there we are headed towards that. So that is the problem. The problem is how you define it. And we define it according to revelation. Because revelation is the guide of action and belief. So it sounds good, but where are you taking that argument? Where are you taking it? Like what is the harm for kids to sleep around? You know, I'm saying nikah and all this, no dating. Let them sleep and make them happy. You understand? Like, why? Why have an age limit? I mean, when they're 13, they're mukallaf, let them enjoy themselves. What is the harm? They're consenting adults, they're consenting human beings. You understand? Without any point in the ground, where are you going to go? You're going to undo, and that's what is happening. Everything is being undone. Everything. Completely is being undone. And will be undone. I mean, even even like pedophilia is a logical consequence of postmodernism. Because who are you to deny the sexuality of someone younger? You with me? Who are you as an adult to deny someone else's sexual urges if they're younger? On what basis? You understand what I mean? On what basis are you saying that? You can't bring culture, you can't bring religion, you can't bring cultural standards, because all of those are out of the door. There are no standards. And you don't understand, like even like in a relationship, who are you to say must be 2 people? Why can't it be 4 people? Let's make a sitcom about it. Let's make a movie about it. All 4 people living together. So I mean, no one. We will tend to like complete chaos and a breakdown of all like social order. And it's happening. Definitely happening.
To understand how this postmodernism movement or theory gain traction, because it's completely absurd if you think about it. It just doesn't. I mean, you can understand the move away from divine knowledge because of schism with the church, and so there's a history there. Here it's just like, how does it even seem appealing to anybody? I mean, I was just thinking, okay, maybe it's a nafsi thing now, where the man and your own desires become your gods. You only obey your own desires. That's the only sort of. Yeah,
it's also the question online for online students is why did this come about? It's also a dissatisfaction with the status quo, meaning what? By the 1960s, the colonial project had failed. You know what I mean? Like it was a disaster. We had 2 world wars already, 2 world wars. So people were unhappy with the current power structures. You understand? They were unhappy with the power structures, whether it's with regard to gender structures, with regard to structures between cultures or between nations. People were dissatisfied with regard to it, and in the academic front, they were trying to undo it. And this is basically where it stems from. It stems from like a total, like the failure of the colonial project, and all the associated things that came with it as well. That's one of the reasons as well. And also, I mean, it's also a consequence of being far from revelation. Is that your nafs, as you said, your nafs will want to push for more and more and more and more, beyond even the rational. When nafs will say, I want to be an animal today, you know what I mean? There's a problem in the UK, they call them furries. Kids who go to school identify as animals. And they're like meowing class and bark. And then the teacher can't tell you you're not a cat because the teacher might be taken for disciplinary hearing. You know what I mean? Because the nafs now is like unbridled, you can do whatever you want. So this is also part of the insanity. Okay. In terms of the way forward, I'd hope to have more questions and answers on it, but time was a little bit tight. So I just want to conclude remarks on LGBTQ and those things. Every society and culture has sexual regulations. Even South Africa has sexual, it has age regulations, it has, appropriate behavior, it has consent regulations, all of those things. Every society has sexual regulations. Islam has sexual regulations. So when we say that you're not allowed to do this, so we are basically just echoing what we understand the divine Allah to intend by it. And that's our marker in the ground. You understand? Like we don't have to go to an empirical study to say like if you do it's going to be bad. No, that's like we don't have to do that. We just simply say that this is our belief and this is where we are at. Okay. If a Muslim is involved in it, if they still believe in Allah Ta'ala and they are doing it because of a weakness of themselves, they're still a believer. You with me? They're not a disbeliever. It's like someone who has an affair. It's haram, but it's not a disbeliever, it's a sinner. So same with the Muslim who does it, and they made a mistake or they have a weakness of themselves or they're a believer, they're still a believer. The problem comes is when they start deeming it to be correct within Islam. Because now you're deeming something which goes against divine revelation. So I think we have to deal with it in a very sensitive way, meaning what? We live in a multicultural democracy. People can do what they want. But we as Muslims, we have the right to our own. Remember, the state has the right to regulate your actions, not your thoughts. The state has the right to regulate your actions. Don't speed here, don't steal here, but they can't regulate your belief. So no one can regulate my belief in terms of what I think is moral between a man and a woman, because I'm taking that from divine revelation. So I have complete right to do that. Legally and ethically and morally, complete right to do it. So I think that we have to keep that line in the sense that I have a right for myself and my family and my community to have my own ethical standards. But at the same time, I'm not going to discriminate against someone who has different perspective. That's fine. That's their perspective. You carry on. I'm still going to greet you. I'm still going to work together with you if I can on something good. But this is my position and that's your position. So it's this idea of like mutual respect, but still maintaining the lines. You with me? But what happened now is the postmodern agenda will tell you your lack of approving that is discrimination. It's almost like you're racist. Like that, you know what I mean? Almost like you're racist towards now, like those people. Like it's the same kind of like weight. Because I say I don't approve of it morally for myself, it's almost like I've committed some sort of sin. And this is the danger that we find ourselves in. Okay. Just in terms of the way forward is it was very quick, but we really have to understand our deen properly, because all the answers are there. Like this year I went over this is actually like months of study, but all the answers are there. Meaning what? That you don't have to feel insecure. It's not a sentimental attachment, it's not a cultural attachment. This is a proper intellectual deen. Like you have firmness. That's why it survived all of these hundreds and 1,500 years, because and that's why the Muslims are still believers, because it has strong underpinnings. It's not some sort of like cultural attachment. And we have to reconnect ourselves to the intellectual tradition of Islam in its proper sense, which is studying all of these things. And there's only one domain of many domains. If we don't do this and we keep our Islam as a set of rituals and a set of cultural practices and a set of just, social interactions, we are going to lose our believers because they're not firmly grounded in knowledge. And the Prophet's dua is, Rabbi zidni ilma. Oh Allah, increase me knowledge, increase me knowledge, increase me knowledge. And when there is confusion, you need more knowledge. to counter all the confusion. What worked 50 years ago is not going to work today. And we as a society have to wake up to that reality. That we are going to lose our society if we don't wake up and give people the truth. No. So that's going to be the first thing. Because the truth makes you feel calm and centered and certain and secure. And the truth makes you feel like almost like even if the whole world turn against me, I will still be your slave, Allah. You know, you feel so strong, like because you have the answers because you've dealt with the problem already. So when you're coming with your insane postmodernism, look at it like, are you the crazy or I'm the crazy? You understand? Like you have like a sense of confidence about yourself. And we have to instill the confidence in our young people so they can also speak and they can also exist and they can also not just be like looking up to this and like feeling a sense of confusion in the lights. Because they are confused. They're definitely confused. They are feeling at a loss and they're still acting Islam because their family demands and their society demands it, but we're losing them. We're shedding them. It's a big problem. The core is no longer is losing its Islam. And the second thing we have to do is we have to have experiential faith. Meaning what? You can't only have rational arguments. You have a psychological, spiritual state, a fitra inside of you. And you have to nurture that. You must experience Iman. Not just like an argument, a logical conclusions. No, you have to experience Iman. How do you do that? You must be in gatherings of prayer, jama'ah salah, of dhikr, because that's a different form of knowledge. Allah puts in the heart a different form of knowledge than just the arguments of the mind. You feel in Ramadan, you feel it. You feel that, Allah, I feel something. Because we're connected. We must seek knowledge, as I mentioned, and we must, and sometimes you find certainty in calamities and trials. No one has more Iman now than for me than the people of Gaza. No one has, when death is on your doorstep every day, your Iman, you don't even know, even have a sip of water, or you're going to have your family the next day. Your Iman is on a level which I believe them to be the kings of Qiyamah. Like on the day of Qiyamah, we will feel pity for ourselves and we will say, oh, Allah, make us like them. For what they're going through. And we must be part of the fight to save them but sometimes if a calamity comes in your life, say, Alhamdulillah. Not that you want calamity, but Alhamdulillah, it's going to increase my Iman. So also that's the attitude we have when it comes to it. And it's found in good company, good circles, gives you, there's a transference that happens between humans when they meet. Not online, You must stop this online stuff. People of Durban, you must come to actual classes, an actual person, because there's transference when we come together. All of us have light, and we come together and we make each other's light brighter. You greet a Muslim, you make each other's light brighter. And we need this. And then the last slide is we have to unplug. Unplug from insanity, and in case we become insane ourselves. If you spend enough time with mad people, you start thinking madness is normal. You understand? We have to unplug from all the entertainment and all the. I'm not saying completely, but if you watch something good at least. We have to also start unplugging from virtual relationships to real relationships. Like this, Zoom is a virtual relationship. It's okay. But to meet each other in class, it's a different experience. We have to build real connection because this gives us strength. We are people of ummah, community. The men are supposed to meet in the masjid 5 times a day, community. Not a Zoom jama'ah. Imagine a Zoom jama'ah, okay, guys, put the channel 1, Allahu Akbar. It'll defeat the purpose. Human connection is what we need. We also need to unplug from the concrete jungle. We need to spend time in nature. Allah speaks about the ayat all the time. Nature is Iman. Nature is subhanallah. This concrete jungle is killing us. Mashallah, Durban, you have some nice green spaces and some beaches that seem okay for now. The next thing is we have to unplug from a culture of materialism and our ego. We must fight against it. Whether Allah gave you a lot or Allah gave you a little, it's a sad state of affairs where you think your material wealth has any impact on who you are. It's a sad state of affairs. If you elevate yourself because then you're just paying like a colonizer. Because the colonizer got happy when they got a factory and when they conquered something, they became like the colonizer. You understand? Like read the seerahs of our great leaders, of the Umars and Abu Bakrs of this world. Read their seerah. Look at their attachment to wealth. Zero. Zero attachment. Like zero. You know what I mean? Here's a battle, take my wealth. Zero attachment. There's no honor in being wealthy. And there's no also disgrace in being wealthy. It just means nothing. It's like being tall. You don't get bonus points if you're tall or short. You understand? If you're tall, maybe Allah will bless you if you help someone because you can reach something high. You understand? Same with wealth. There's no honor in wealth. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. This is the wrong. There's honor in taqwa and iman and good character and helping people and being knowledgeable and being a person of prayer. There's honor in those things. There's no honor in wealth. And this is sometimes a problem in our communities, especially when they get wealthy. They start thinking it means nothing. You say people, Qiyamah, what do you think is happen on Qiyamah? You're going to have more to account for. If you're wealthy, alhamdulillah, good, help people. But don't make it your objective to become wealthy. It's the wrong thing to do with your life. It's a life that is wasted. It's wasted. And the last thing I'll say is that what must you do? Spend your time in service of others. We're a country full of problems. Don't tell me you don't know what to do. You understand? You walk out of your door, you see problems. Don't tell me you don't know what to do. There's enough. If you can't find problems, come to me. I'll give you a list and just tell you where to start. Really, this is where the believers are. And I think if you start doing this, our society will come right. Basically, will heal itself. Will be orientated. Will grow. We can't be like everybody else if we are people of revelation. Because otherwise, what is the point of the revelation? If the Muslims are exactly the same as everybody else, what is the point of the revelation? What is the point of the Prophet coming? What was the point of all of that if you're just the same? You're the same, but you just bow 5 times a day. No. There's a massive difference between the two. And we have to reclaim that identity as a believer, that true identity. And this is our intention, inshallah. It's our niyyah, and raise our children also. Inshallah ta'ala. Barakallah, shukran for your attendance and sorry for taking so long. I'll take maybe just 1 or 2 last questions or comments and then we'll close that, inshallah. Online students, will give you a chance because you're in the virtual world, so you're deprived. So any questions or comments from you? I think most of the online students are actually a lot of them are Capetonians, mashallah. In class, any questions or comments? Maybe I'll take a quick comment, just 2 minutes for each person, inshallah. Bismillah. Maybe just key takeaways or anything from yourself or epiphanies or anything. But just 2 minutes each, inshallah.
After this, I realized everything is like contextual and historical and there's a big picture. I think it is important for us to understand like how we got here, which I haven't really thought about before. So I think that is important. You want to know like what to do. You know now what can you do. But I think the broader picture just helps to like give you that context understanding.
Yeah, because human beings are thinking beings. So give them the whole picture so they can understand. Bismillah.
Yeah, just like the whole framing of it. Like I said, how your definite knowledge has been reconstructed or challenged. You never got to do it like that over the ages. I think that's quite interesting. And it gives you tools to like how to address it, to revise it.
Inshallah. Barakallah. Bismillah, uncle.
Shukran to you, Sheikh. You've given us insights really.
Alhamdulillah.
I learned about it. This is a 3-year degree. This.
3 years was short. No, I mean the amount of content here, it takes years to explore all of this. Like I touched on a lot of just touching on areas, but each of these areas are areas which ulama should be studying and are studying to some extent and some not. But these are areas that all are unpacked, all have answers, all have deep legacies, and this is what the job of a scholar is to study and to transmit the truth and to create certainty in people. And may Allah grant us all certainty. Amen, inshallah. Barakallah.
I mean, for me personally, I think it's an eye-opening, more especially like how you mentioned about the way starting from the history of Islam up until so it's something that's was amazing to me that these are things that did happen
Yes.
where it's we need to be fairly and alhamdulillah also is something that where I think just like what you just explained now it's something that we want to hear on our daily like Friday lectures, you know, something similar. One thing, you know, like certainly we don't get often this kind of talks.
Yes, yes.
Something that if we do get more, then we can actually benefit and change.
Amen, inshallah. Inshallah. Barakallah. Shukran so much for your comments and your feedback, inshallah. Uncle, anything to mention?
I came in a bit late this morning,
Yes.
because I one found out this morning, but I want just found out history quite important, you know, and the only thing I came across, you know, that was about the set ice for those starting down the family down all the problems. Found that interesting.
Inshallah. Barakallah. What I'll do also, if you're on the WhatsApp group, is I'll send some recommended readings, which a lot of this is based upon, which you can read a bit further onto it. There's it's on our messages. Just check inshallah on the messages. If you're registered, it should be on there, inshallah. Or if not, just ask the admin at Mizan to add you, inshallah. So we have WhatsApp group. But or maybe I'll just email our list to whoever was there on some readings. So from I think from and this will be available on YouTube. The whole thing will be available. We'll send you the link as well of the whole workshop on YouTube. It's not the same to watch it. It's okay. But I think if you want more, basically keep connected to Mizan. We have programs all the time. In fact, we have programs every weekend. So we are actively teaching like this for like last 13 years now. So it's in Cape Town, alhamdulillah, we've been based there. But I think also we are moving more, trying to spread the reach to Joburg and Durban, because I mean now it's easy to access the teachers and so on. So that's one of the reasons we're building the connections here. It's a slow start, but that's how it starts basically. But basically in Cape Town, classes like this will have like 200 people in. I mean, like it's the community loves to learn, and I think that we need to build that spirit across the whole South Africa. That people come in their hundreds to learn. They come in their hundreds to pray, and like we have to revive the ummah, the community, because we're not silos. We must come together. We must learn and grow together, inshallah ta'ala. So you can follow Mizan and you can keep up with the programs, inshallah ta'ala. We do lots of stuff. We have camps, itikaf programs, dhikrs. We have like a whole range of community activities, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah bless him, may Allah protect it. Inu some dua, inshallah ta'ala. الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين يا رحمن يا رحيم يا كريم يا نور يا مجيب يا لطيف يا عظيم يا كريم Ya Nuru, Ya Ahad, Ya Samad, Ya Allah, we call you by all your beautiful names, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to gaze upon us with rahmah, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to accept us, Ya Allah, into your rahmah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to bless us, we ask you, Ya Allah, to protect us, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to grant us all beneficial knowledge, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to grant us all truth, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to preserve our iman, to preserve the iman of our spouses, to preserve the iman of our families, we ask you, Ya Allah, to strengthen us, Ya Allah, we ask you, Ya Allah, to remove our weakness. We ask, Ya Allah, to fix our hearts, Ya Allah, remove the attachment of this dunya from our hearts, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to fill our hearts with iman and taqwa, Ya Allah ta'ala. We ask, Ya Allah, to bless our homes, Ya Allah, put nur in our homes, Ya Allah, remove shaitan from our homes, Ya Allah, remove doubt and confusion from our homes, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to put certainty in our homes, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to assist our brothers and sisters in Palestine, Ya Allah, and in Gaza, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to grant them justice, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to grant them victory, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to grant them ease, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to raise all of those who are deceased, Ya Allah, to the highest levels of the martyrs, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to replace them with homes better than their homes that have been lost, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to heal their hearts, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to forgive us for our weakness in not being able to help them, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, you are the Malik, you are the King, Ya Allah. assist them, Ya Allah, and grant them ease and relief, Ya Allah, and destroy your enemies, Ya Allah. Destroy the enemies, Ya Allah, that attack and that kill, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask, Ya Allah, to strengthen this ummah, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to grant this ummah good leaders, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to grant this ummah good, strong leaders that will unite this ummah and it will once again help Islam to rise, Ya Allah, Ya Latif. We ask, Ya Allah, to send nur in the graves of all of the deceased. We ask, Ya Allah, to grant shifa to all of those who are ill, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to bless this community, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to strengthen this community, Ya Allah. We ask, Ya Allah, to unite the hearts of the ulama. We ask, Ya Allah, to unite the hearts of the masajid. We ask, Ya Allah, to unite the hearts of the organizations. We ask, Ya Allah, to grant us all sincerity that we all may work for your sake, Ya Allah, Ya Latif. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم سبحانك ربنا رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين تقبل الله آمين